Right. So let's start with the first question. So, what is sample sustainability?
In my world, sample sustainability means the ability to still field projects and complete marketing research using traditional sample methods. And that would be online panels, communities, customer lists. That is how I view sample sustainability of us being able to execute research into the future. That is my narrow viewpoint of what that is.
Okay. So, this sounds like it's an issue that could threaten the longer term viability of the marketing research industry.
We're we're seeing that now. I think clients are seeing that now. Most projects we're doing are lower IR than what they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. 50% IR is not there anymore, not very
Hmm.
often. So the pool of respondents has been shrinking. We all know that. That's why we're using multiple providers to fill a project. That's why we're using multiple methods to fill a project. It's just the way that it is right now. Our universe of sample is shrinking.
Okay. All right. So, why can't the sample providers take care of this issue by themselves?
So all I can speak for is people similar to me. I run an online panel. I've been running an online panel since the 1990s. It was a male panel in the 1980s. So this is a heritage panel in our industry. There's many other companies similar to mine. They might not have panels as old as mine, but they've been doing this since the early 2000s or late 90s. So what we have to do is we're trying to manage millions of people, not only for their data quality and sticking up for them and saying no, these are good respondents, but we're also trying to keep them in the panel and keep them active and keep them treating surveys with respect. To do that, you have to pay people a fair incentive. That's what everything is tied into in my mind as the start. That's the start fix right now is stop paying people $1 for 15 minutes of their time. I mean, that's not even close to minimum wage. So we really need to respect the respondent more. They're providing us valuable insights. Sure, a lot of them are providing us crap data, but that's because we are either writing poor surveys or putting them into a system where it's encouraging it, or we're not paying them an incentive at all, or they're being paid so little, why do they care? What we've seen is direct correlation between a higher incentive or a more appropriate incentive to better data quality. And we've seen that for 15 straight years. I don't think that is anything we can argue whatsoever. So that's where the panels such as mine, the panel companies like mine, where we manage people and try to keep them happy and delete those that cheat and add more members to fill those spaces. That's our big battle right now is we need to pay a fair incentive. And what I view as a fair incentive is about $1 for every 5 minutes someone's online. And this is consumer. This is not B2B. This is consumer people, general gen pop, $1 for every 5 minutes. So 20 minute survey, they're getting, $4. That's a very fair incentive. But because of the marketplaces, because of the environment we're in, people are demanding to buy sample for, and people being in clients, marketing research companies are wanting to buy sample at $2 for a 20-minute survey. Well, the incentive needs to be $3 or $4. So a $2 CPI coming back to me means I'm taking $1 to $3 loss on the project. And so what we've had to do is we've had to scale back incentives industry wide. We have not touched them much. We've left our incentive structure the same since the mid 1990s. We just believe in paying fairly, and that's why we have tenure of over 3 years in our panel. But that's what's hurting us right now is there's the demand for cheap sample is so strong that we have to feed into cheap sample if we want to remain competitive, and that's not helping the respondent pool whatsoever.
Okay. What are the causes? This we're going to have to take a step back here
Okay.
what are the root causes of this sampling crisis?
I you know it's so strange. You look at the world and we hit our peak, in my opinion. Maybe we'll peak again. 2005 to 2010ish. I mean, during those time periods, we were running 25% response rates. I mean, we were having 4,000 people join a panel a day just by having a website. That's no advertising. That's no Google AdWords. That's just having a website where we pay for your opinion. 4,000 natural people a day. Now it's more like a couple of hundred natural people a day. and you're paying $7 to $10 to recruit a panel member into your panel, and you need to monetize that. And monetizing it means getting several surveys out of them. So the environment has just really shifted from the early 2000s to mid 2000s to what it is today, and a lot of that is technology, and the technology is unbelievable. I mean, a big kudos to all those companies that took venture capital money and private equity money and developed these systems, because they are powerful as anything. The marketplaces, all of them are unbelievable. But the problem is they were built by companies trying to make money, and they're not making money by paying the panelists more. They're making money by building systems that help speed things up and automate and create routers and create these systems to where we can get a pool of respondents in this system and then shoot them out to wherever they're going to fit. That is when this really came about 8 to 10, 12 years ago. I thought this was going to be the savior. I mean, a system where we're routing, where we're starting here with just some few general demographic questions and then shooting them to an appropriate survey to where they're not being wasted. Their time's not being wasted. But then we realized, okay, IRs are starting to drop and panel response rates are starting to drop and surveys are being written more and more poorly. So the experience we've created with allowing clients to program their own surveys, I think that's a great offering, but we need to have auto response set up to where we know every path of that survey can be taken and hit by a respondent and they can complete it. What we see is respondents start a survey and then there's dead ends because we just don't have the right QC processes in place on these outlying surveys within marketplaces. So really, from my viewpoint, we had a peak where we were all kind of equal. We're sending you an email. You're going to answer a survey. You're going to get paid $2 to $3. Have a good day. Bye. And then we started automating it and automating it and automating it, which is always better. But we kind of took the respondent experience out of it, and that's what really concerns me. And to get into respondent experience, we're looking at respondents that might be in a routing system being asked the same demographic questions 10 times over age, gender, ethnicity, income, education, possibly marital status. They could be asked those questions 10 times each over and over again for 10, 15 minutes. And that's what's killing us right now is in my opinion is the system we've set up where we allow them to be just pounded and pounded and pounded in a router before they get selected for a survey. So if they're in a router for 15 minutes and then they finally get into your 15-minute survey, your data quality is not going to be as good as it was if they were not routing for 15 minutes. If they were routing for 1 minute or 2 minutes and they went into your survey, or if they were a direct send, then they're not already burnt out. They're not already upset. And that's the stem of my issues is we've created this brilliant system, but we're abusing it. And we need to have more safety nets and protocols and standard practices set forth on using a router.
Just as an aside, I signed up for a panel just
Uh-huh.
randomly. Every so often I do that
Yeah.
just to see what's going on. And that is exactly my experience. I
Yeah.
went in a couple times a day for a week, and I don't know how many screeners I
I
answered,
know.
but I
Yeah.
finally was like, I'm done. I'm not answering my age anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it
I
was just, and I never ever got, probably because I'm old, but I never ever got to a real survey.
yeah.
It
When
was
it,
amazing.
it's so frustrating to most respondents.
Yeah,
If honestly, if you're younger and you're a male, you're probably going to find that survey quick as anything because there's so many filters
exactly.
open for a young male. But if you're like me, a middle-aged man, you might be routing for a while. Middle-aged woman, you're going to be routing for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not set up for the respondent. It's set up for everyone else to make money. And I totally get that. You don't
Yeah.
invest in a company to not make money. But
Right.
we just we have to get it more to where it's even. Right now it's like that. We just need even closer would be fine. So
Okay. So, well, if technology was part of the problem of creating this issue, is it possible that that's also this part of the solution?
most definitely we can. I mean, everybody has control with their own panels within these marketplaces and systems to determine how long you want your panel member to be beaten up over demographic questions. We have control over that for the most part. Once they start routing and routing and routing, you lose further control. But as long as you stay within one marketplace, you have control for a while. And that's where we need to really look at it as a group. And I brought this up at a conference called SampleCon, where the sample industry gets together. Of we need to set up best practices. We need to protect the panel member, because once we run out of them and they stop joining, I mean, maybe Chat GTP is the answer, and maybe that can answer all our surveys going forward, but we don't know that. And I have a hard time believing that we want to substitute a computer for a human response, because it's still the humans that are buying things.
Right. So you spoke about this at this conference. What was the reaction of the audience?
Very mixed. A lot of claps from the end researchers, the marketing researchers, the end clients that were there, because they're the ones that really feel the pain points. The market research companies that are out there trying to buy sample and field projects and finish them with their clients is becoming more and more difficult. So they were the ones very appreciative of it, and immediate clapping from them and coming up after the speaking job, and congratulations. The sample providers, like me, I'm a sample provider, but I'm also a full service marketing researcher. We're not very pleased, and I understand that. I mean, I essentially call this all out. I said we've been looking at the financials more than we've been looking at the human beings, and it's starting to bite us in the butt.
Hmm.
The sampling universe is shrinking. It's not all because of us, this industry, but it's a good reason because of us, because of what you just said, Deb, of
Hmm.
routing forever, of $1 incentives, of just being pounded by, I belong to many other panels. Sometimes I get 12 emails a day from the same panel company. Do I need 12 emails a day from anybody? I mean, it's just a beatdown. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and most panelists, we all know this, most panelists belong to multiple panels. If you're going to join a panel, you usually join more than one. So we're also in competition with each other to get that panel member's time, attention of when a survey pops up. And that's where I feel like I have an advantage because I'm paying more. But I don't want to have that advantage. I want us all to pay more. And that way the universe is so much happier. We can have more people join panels, participation rates will go up panel wide, industry wide.
So what's the role of aggregators here? What did they need to do?
So we have in the sampling world, we have essentially those that own their own panel, and that would be like us. We developed our own panel, we manage it directly. This is not a database that we've gathered. This is people that sign up, they double opt in, and with us, they triple opt in. With aggregators are a very important part of this industry because they are experts on all the different panels out there. So they are going to go out and you want to do a B2B survey that involves blonde hair, blue-eyed electricians, that's the panel to go to. They know that. They're going to go buy sample from that and help you execute your project. So we're all, it's a weird universe that we're all in competition with each other, but we're all helping each other out. I sell sample to other sample providers regularly. I buy from other sample providers regularly. We all do. Aggregators don't have their own proprietary source, but they have expertise on many different sources, whether it's consumer or B2B.
Okay. Um, did you answer how can they help?
Um, I don't really know of a way that they can help.
Okay. All right.
That really falls out of their realm because they do not control the
The
panels, nor do they
panels.
control the surveys being written, nor do they control the platform the surveys are in. So they are that is a true middleman at that point in time as an aggregator, but it's a very needed middleman at times. So
The uh, you said that researchers, the marketing research firms and the end clients are the ones who feel the pain. Um, what do they need to do? How can they help?
what they can do, we all need to speak up. If there's any end clients out there listening, ask for sample, ask your provider, how long do you allow your sample to be routed for? If they say more than 5 minutes, you probably need to find a new provider. I mean, so the researchers, the corporate researchers and end clients can ask the right questions to make sure they're at least putting it in their sample provider's mind of, oh, my clients are asking for this. Maybe we need to start acting on this. You know, ask what the incentive is going to be paid to the panel member taking your survey. I mean, that's
Hmm.
very important. If I'm a huge end client and I'm doing $100,000 project, but my sample provider is only paying my respondents 50 cents a complete when they should be paying $4, and they're telling me they're paying $4, my data quality is going to suffer, my research is going to suffer, and I might make $1 million decision that is the wrong decision. So I think asking, how long do you allow your respondents to route for if you do use a router? What incentive are you going to pay the people for taking this? Those are very valid questions. What sample sources are we going to use? Is it going to be your proprietary source, or are you going to use an amalgam of different sources? My suggestion is you should always mix sources. You're bleeding out the biases by mixing sources, and you're really protecting yourselves that you don't get into one hole with one provider and then they can't finish it, and then you're trying to struggle at the last minute. So as a corporate researcher, as an end client, ask good questions of your sample provider and your market researcher. If you're an end client, ask them, survey length, what the incentive is and what it should be based upon good data. Ask it how long they route their panel members for. Ask those questions to really start setting the tone that you care about the sample, and that you're not there to buy it as cheap as you can, and you'll just dig through the crap and weed through those later.
There's a lot of bad surveys floating around out there. We both know that.
Yes,
What role does that have?
it has a pretty big role.
Really?
And I touched on that just a tad bit earlier, where we're talking about, we have SurveyMonkey, which is awesome. We have, there's so many other different program it yourself systems. I know most sample providers out there have their own system where you can build your own questions and launch your own stuff. That's great as long as you know how to write a question and you check all your logic and all your piping and all your paths to make sure the panel member or the respondent, is not always a panel member, so can get through your survey and answer it properly. That once we start programming our own stuff and DIYing it, that's where we're missing out on survey quality. So, if you have an expert at your company to just review it before you push it live, that's just going to make our sample universe a better place. So just, I can't stop progress. I don't want to stop progress. I think being able to write and create your own questions and put your own surveys out there is a powerful tool, but I hope all the companies that offer that have the safeguards in there of an auto response to make sure every path is checked off, and you start with 300 and you end with 300 as your end. So we just need the right tools in place to really take this to the next level. And I think most companies are doing it right, but the survey quality is so bad. It is grid questions. Nobody should be asking grid questions anymore. I mean, you know, just sit yourself down in front of a computer and have you take that survey before you give it to a respondent. And I promise you, you're going to change that survey quite a bit to make it more respondent friendly.
Well, then compound that with the fact that so many people are taking surveys on their phones.
Yes, phones and the systems we have created today, and everybody uses them. If they identify you're on a phone, it's going to change the structure of the survey and the display of the survey to be more phone appropriate. And it does usually rip those grid questions out and put them as single response questions. But a grid question of 30 questions is now 30 single response questions. So your survey went from 4 minutes to 10 minutes. So
Right.
so there's always a battle. There's always going to be a battle of how long of a survey can I do before data quality hits? What questions should I be including in a survey or excluding to make the experience better? A lot of that is just common sense. If you don't want to answer that survey, nobody else does either. So don't write a survey like that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, just take thought and consideration of what the respondent's going through. That really is going to give you better survey data in the long run than asking 50 grid questions over and over again.
So when I was a baby researcher, 30-minute, 45-minute surveys were not atypical at all.
Correct.
We know that the data quality drops after 15 minutes. Have we learned that as an industry, or are surveys still too long?
This is where I have arguments with my fellow partners in the industry. I believe you can do 30-minute interviews. I don't think that's a problem. We do 30-minute interviews all the time at Symmetric. But I also pay my panel members fairly to do it, and I also don't route them. So
Okay.
when I'm not routing for 15 minutes and I'm sending them a direct invite to take a 30-minute survey. And in that invitation, it says, listen, if you qualify and complete this survey, it will take 30 minutes of your time. So please do not start this survey until you have 30 minutes. That is the difference between a direct invite where you're letting a person know, hey, we have a survey, you're going to get paid $10 on it, but it's going to take 30 minutes. Make sure you have 30 minutes in case you qualify for this survey, compared to a routing system where you're pounded age, gender, ethnicity over and over and over, and then you get selected for a 30-minute survey. After 15 minutes of that, well, one, you were never warned that it was a 30-minute survey. You've already been pounded for 15 minutes in the router, so now you're 45 minutes online. So of course your data quality sucks. So
Yeah.
what we've seen is, yes, data quality does start to slip past 20 minutes, but as long as you put little just pop-ups in your survey or something of, okay, you're down to the last 5 or 10 minutes, or a progress bar, or words of encouragement, it's essentially, you treat them like human beings. You treat them
Right.
like they're your coworkers, or they're your employees, because they are your coworkers, they are your employees. You communicate with them fairly, and you explain things, and they will do a 30-45 minute survey without an issue, with good data. And that is a fact, as long as you don't beat them up in a router, and as long as you pay them fairly and let them know ahead of time what they're getting into.
Okay. This is all going to mean higher prices for the end client.
Yes.
How do we sell that?
I mean, it should be selling itself now, with deletion rates of 60-70%, refilling projects, delays on when projects close, finding out months later the data was bad. I mean, the way I kind of view it is, we're all willing to pay for McDonald's every day. Let's have a cheap meal. Let's have a cheap meal. But then we complain that we're gaining weight and not feeling good, and all that. Well, stop eating McDonald's. I mean, you can buy sample for $1. If that's what you want, buy it for $1. Just don't complain when you have to clean it out. But if you're
Mhm.
buying sample for $3 and you're not having to do any cleaning, and you feel good about the data, and the panel members are happy because they're paid fairly and they're going to come back to the next survey, you've just made this a better environment. You've helped us all. And
Okay.
that's what we should all be doing. And,
All right.
I do understand, Jason, you're just saying, okay, pay an extra $2 for 200 pieces of sample. That's only 400 extra bucks, though. On your grand scheme of what you're trying to accomplish, paying an extra 400 to even $1,000 in sample, just to ensure better data quality, as long as you've written a good questionnaire and you're using a good provider, that's worth it. I mean, on a $20,000 project, who cares? A sample is an extra 500 bucks.
Hmm. Hmm. So, and I think you've already answered this, but let's do it again anyway.
Okay.
Is sample sustainability more of a concern when sampling certain segments of the population? For example, B2B, under 40s.
I mean, all of these people are out there, whether you can find them on an online panel, or if you have to go to phone, or if you have to go to online qual or in-person qual or mail surveys. I guess as I'm speaking here, don't as we talk about sample sustainability, we really are focusing on the internet world, the online world of sample, but we're really talking about the entire world of sample.
Hmm.
I think the more we reach out to the tried and true methods, the better off we're going to be, where we're not pounding the online respondent with 12 invites a day. I mean, obviously, I don't allow that. Most providers don't allow that, but there are a lot that do. And so once we can get to this more level environment, I think everything will get better for everyone. But right now, sample sustainability is it's a huge concern. I mean, the amount of trash we're getting, the how hard it is to complete a 5% IR study these days. B2B, we have B2B panels, but I will still steer people toward doing KD or mail with B2B, mixing those methods with online, just to feel even better about the data quality and being able to reach enough people, because no panel has 10,000 IT professionals that work at Fortune 2000 companies. I mean, you just know those people don't join panels, so you've got to find them other ways.
Um, so why should we worry about this now? The world is changing so rapidly. Is it possible this problem may just go away?
It, I hope it does. I hope it does. But 2010, when we were at a peak, was a long time ago. That's 13 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody can say the environment is better now than it was 13 years ago in terms of data quality, in terms of response rates, in terms of feeling good about your research. And research has gotten cheaper over the last 10 years too. I mean, it 13 years, over the last 13 years, it has gotten much cheaper. There's bigger things you can do. And once you throw on advanced analytics and all these other powerful tools, they do get very expensive. But if you're just doing a Gen Pop consumer survey, it's cheaper now than it was 13 years ago to do it. But yet inflation, and yet money's not worth as much, and all these other things. It should not be cheaper now. But
Yeah.
but we got into a position where the researchers and the corporate researchers and end clients had so much say that we had to build it for price sensitivity, and we ignored the bottom line, which is who does it burn, and what it burns is the respondent, and that's what we're paying for right now.
Yeah. Okay. So as we're thinking about sample sustainability, one of the issues is that people just don't want to take surveys. They're concerned about privacy and loss of their own privacy information. So is that an issue here?
That does come into play. It truly does. Telemarketing has a really bad word to it, but back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, that just meant that marketing research companies were calling you, asking you to take a phone survey.
Yep.
So, the same thing with the online sampling industry. I'm signing up, but yet I get 50 spam emails right after I sign up on your website. So that means you just sold my email address. Not that I do that, not that most anybody in our industry does that, but it's the lack of trust people have. So of course that is stunting the growth of us having more sample to access. But at the same time, these are self-induced pains. We are the ones, we as a society, we as a world cause these concerns because we've allowed scammers to survive. We've, these phishing methods and all this stuff has put concern into people's heads.
Hmm.
So that definitely has come into play, and that's why it's also so important to mix your methods. I mean, online is not always the best method for things. Use mail surveys are amazing. Use mail surveys. Use phone, in person, online, qualitative. Don't stick to just online. But
Mm.
that's been our big struggle too. Is people don't trust other people, and honestly most people shouldn't trust other people because the world's a very 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 messed up place these days since COVID hit and beyond. So
Now how do you convince your panel members that you're keeping their data secure?
we have a very open relationship with our panel members. They have full access to their account. They can update it, delete it, remove it whenever they want. We obviously have a complete panel privacy page that lists everything out of what we're doing to protect it. But a lot of the times you just have to build trust. I mean, the first time I walk into a new store, I'm not going in saying this is my favorite new store. I'm going in going, let's see how it goes. So you
Yeah.
do have
Yeah.
to trust people these days. You do. Just, find out if a business belongs to the BBB. That's a good start, as long as it's a US business. I think BBB is only US. Then make sure that sample company or online provider belongs to SMR, belongs to the Insights Association, maybe belongs to ARF, any of our industry thing. If they don't belong to any industry uh, organizations,
Associations.
associations that we belong to, then you need to start to hesitate. So look for legitimacy before you join a panel, before you start taking surveys. That would be my advice. Survey Police is a site that's been around for a very long time, and it is there just to help steer respondents toward actual, real, honest money paying opportunities via survey, taking surveys online.
I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting, but I really see this as sort of an especially with AI,
Uh-huh.
an existential moment for the industry.
It is.
That
Yeah. We're
it's,
we're at a turning point. I mean, this
yes.
GTP thing, I am not against, if a client came up to me and said, like they did 25 years ago, hey, I want you to do side by side of internet and phone to show me that internet works. I'm waiting for the day for a client to come up and say, hey, I want to see something at a conference where a client went side by side with online and chat GTP, and let's see what those responses look like. So,
Hmm. Yeah, that
so
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
yeah, no, I'm excited about the future, but it's also
scary.
it's
Yeah.
scary.
stuff. Yeah.
Definitely scary.